Welcome to the Vietnamese Poetry, Literature channel. Today we will listen to the work, Quietly SaPa, by author Nguyen Thanh Long. Let's listen. After leaving bridge number 4, the car climbed up the mountain. Clouds throw white fans up from the valleys. I only saw a glimpse in the vast blue, ahead, a yellow three-cornered streak, which was the road I had just passed. After walking for a while, I looked up and still saw that three-cornered streak. Only now did the old driver speak. The stream with the white waterfall I just passed is the forest station. After a while, we will arrive in SaPa. Don't you visit SaPa? Every artist comes to SaPa. There you can freely draw. I've been on this road for 32 years. Before the August Revolution, I returned to many artists like you. This artist to Ngoc Van, this artist Hoang Kiet. What a sudden! The old painter smiled in response. Just now, at Lao Cai station, when the car was about to start, I saw that the third row of seats was cramped because the young cat couple bought tickets for different flights but were determined not to leave each other. The driver invited him to the front seat, sitting in the middle of him and a girl. As soon as he sat in his seat, the driver took a look and immediately asked, "Are you an artist?" So, he thought to himself, I used to know many artists. This is also a driver with artistic blood. Funny, when I was young, I also passed this road many times. Easels, color boxes, paper rolls, so much fun. But no one recognized me. Now that I'm old, I always have this notebook in my pocket, but everyone is right about what they do, it's unmistakable. Here you are, you didn't ask me yesterday what that was? The girl smirked, seemingly very pleased with him being moved to sit next to her. After a night and a day of traveling by train from Hanoi, sitting together in an increasingly crowded compartment, when we got there, we had no choice but to combine our luggage and put it on a pole to carry it to the hotel 4 miles from town. After such a journey, people consider each other as relatives. The artist had the mixed feelings that often come with old age, and quickly considered the girl to be his child. This week, at home, my brothers plan to have a party to see me retire. I ask you to postpone the party until next weekend. Wait until I get back from this real trip. For an artist, there are 2 favorite times in life, when I was young and when I am now. I can be active, draw, like when I was young. I have more maturity that I didn't have back then. Without pessimism, without illusions, I think I still have 10 more years to live. You have to be able to draw something you like for the rest of your life, right? He easily opened up to the girl with words of confidence that, as an old man, he still maintained an unreasonable modesty, never daring to confess to his friends. The girl is an engineer who just passed the exam and got a job at Lai Chau Agricultural Company. The first time she left Hanoi, passed through the narrow school life, entered a brand new vast life, everything made her excited. She kept looking out the car window, her eyes quiet and fascinated. She is a young graduate who can go anywhere, do anything, receive any salary, no matter how she is received, she feels her heart is light. In truth, she also fell in love once, but then immediately deleted it because she knew she was wrong. 2 days of living close together, with the artist's own sensitivity, the old painter knew that. He said it as if saying something obvious and unimportant. For a person who longs for the open sky, giving up a love is often a relief. The girl was moved because she suddenly heard an old person describe in words her vague feelings. From that moment on, the 2 of them got closer to each other. That's good. I also went to Lai Chau. I will take you to the office, hand you over to the head of the office, ask him to help you as much as possible, take a look at your food and bed like a real father, and then I will return. She's not worried. Just like that, the intimacy between the girl and the funny old man began. We just passed SaPa, don't you recognize it? The driver suddenly asked again. I did notice. SaPa starts with peach groves. And with herds of ancient roan cows wearing bells in the grasslands in the valleys on both sides of the road. That place is Fin, right? The artist asked. Yes. Do you not like stopping in SaPa? I like it very much. I'll definitely go back and stay there anyway. That's what I intended. But now is not the time. Are you afraid that SaPa will be sad? The artist burst out laughing. Who isn't afraid of being sad? Is it like a cockroach that eats people? It's better to avoid it to do life's work. The happy expressions on the driver's face suddenly widened and then disappeared for a moment. He said nothing more. The artist and the girl were also stunned, because the scene in front of them suddenly appeared strangely beautiful. The sun is now starting to creep in, burning the forest. The pine trees were just above their heads, shaking in the sunlight their silver fingers under the protective gaze of the purple trees that occasionally raised their lilac heads above the green of the forest. The clouds were blown away by the sun, curled up into clumps, rolled over the dew-wet leaves, fell onto the road, and even slid under the car. At that moment, the car stopped suddenly. 2 or 3 people shouted at the same time. What is that? The driver shouted loudly. Let the car rest for a while to get water. It's always convenient for people to fill their stomachs. Half an hour, ladies and gentlemen. While everyone was happily buzzing behind them, the driver turned to the artist and said quickly, I'm about to introduce to you one of the loneliest people in the world. Either way, I like his look. For some reason, saying this, the driver glanced at the girl. She suddenly blushed. A 27-year-old young man. This is Sun Peak, 2,600 meters high. He works in meteorology and geophysics. 4 years ago, one day I was walking like this when I suddenly saw a tree trunk blocking the road and had to brake. A young man came running from somewhere, along with me and my passenger. He pushed the tree aside to let the car go. Asked here who pushed the tree into the middle of the road like this, he just blushed. It turned out that he had just accepted a job, living alone on the top of the mountain, with only trees and cold clouds all around him, not yet used to it, craving people so much, he found a way to stop the car to meet us. Look at us and say talk for a moment. Look, there he is. Those previous introductions made the old artist deeply moved when he saw the young man of small stature and radiant face running from the mountainside in front of him to where the car was parked. He didn't notice his daughter also clinging tightly to his shoulder, half out of curiosity, half out of self-defense against something. The son gave the driver a small package. What is this? The driver asked. Panic's note again sang root I just dug up. I sent my aunt to soak in wine to drink. The other day, didn't you tell your aunt that she just woke up sick? The driver also pulled out a packet of paper from the car door pocket. And this is the book I bought for you. The boy was happily holding his book and was still smiling and looking around at the passengers who were now all on the ground. Some are stretching, some are sitting down on the roadside, taking out the food they brought with them. The driver led him to the artist and the girl. Here, let me introduce to you an experienced painter. And this lady is an agricultural engineer. He put the visitors go home. Old age needs tea, in Lao Kai it's too early. Please give me your sweet soup mixed with rainwater that smells like Yen Sun perfume. The young man blushed, clearly flustered. Yes, please come and play. That's your house. Go up those steps, there's a house up there. Boiling water is ready, but I'll go home a little early. Uncle and aunt, please come up immediately. Having finished speaking, he ran away, as hastily as when he arrived. Uncle and aunt go up with him for a bit. I would like to draw him anyway, the driver said again. The artist thought to himself, the guests came unexpectedly. Maybe he didn't have time to sweep and clean up, or fold the blanket for example. He was very surprised when he walked up the dirt steps and saw a young man picking flowers. And the engineer just said, "Oh." After nearly 2 days, traveling nearly 400 kilometers away from Hanoi, standing looking at the clouds and clouds at the same level as that rainbow, suddenly I saw dandelion flowers, dahlias, yellow, purple, red, pink, honeycomb. Right down there it was summer, suddenly and happily, forgetting her shyness, she ran to the boy who was cutting flowers. The boy, very naturally as with a close friend, gave the cut flower bouquet to the girl, and just as naturally, she took it. I cut a few more branches. Then you can take as much as you want. Just cut a big bunch in. You can cut it all off, if you like. I don't know how to celebrate this day solemnly. Uncle and aunt are the second group of guests to visit my house since Tet. And she is the first girl from Hanoi to come to my house in the past 4 years. The boy said out loud what one should only think. These are also things we rarely think about. That made the old man and the girl immediately moved and attracted. She hugged the bouquet to her chest and boldly looked straight into his face. The young man caught that look, quickly wiped the sweat from the bridge of his nose, smiled, lowered his voice and asked. Also reunited, right? Yes, the girl will say. Okay. End of the flower picking performance. The boy suddenly decided, I'll only drive for 30 minutes. 5 minutes are up. I talk about my work for 5 minutes. There are 20 minutes left, please come in for tea and let me hear the story. I really want to hear the story below. My work also revolves around these garden machines. Every weather station garden machine has it. This mountain range has a decisive influence on the northeast monsoon in the north of our country. Here, I am responsible for measuring wind, rain, sunshine, clouds, ground vibrations, and participating in daily weather forecasts to serve production and combat. This is my machine. You can see this rain measuring barrel everywhere. After it rains, pour the water into a separating cup to measure it. This is a heliostat. Sunlight passes through this glass and burns these pieces of paper. Depending on the degree and shape of the burn, the sun is determined. This is a wind machine. Look at the distance between the cogs and guess the wind. At night, I don't look at the clouds, I look at the wind shaking the leaves, or look at the sky, see which stars are hidden, which stars are bright, can tell the clouds, and calculate the wind. That machine deep down there is a machine that measures the vibrations of the Earth's crust. I took the numbers and reported, home, every day by walkie-talkie, 4 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, again 1 o'clock in the morning. That newspaper is called, cover, in the industry. The work is generally easy, just need to be accurate. The most difficult part was recording and reporting at 1 a.m. Cold, uncle. There's even snow here. In the middle of the night, lying under the blanket, I heard the clock ringing and just wanted to turn it off. Getting out of the blanket, no matter how loud the hurricane lamp was, it still wasn't bright enough. Carrying the lantern out into the garden, the snowy wind and silence outside seemed to rush in just waiting for me to come out. The silence at that time was so scary, it felt like it was being chopped into pieces, and the wind was like brooms wanting to sweep everything away and throw it everywhere. The silence was freezing cold yet burning like fire. Finished work, came back, couldn't go back to sleep. The young man who was talking stopped. And why does the artist feel confused? Because I saw a small, shy girl standing in the middle of the beds, no longer needing to pick flowers, holding a bouquet of flowers in her hand, listening. Because the artist came across something he actually longed to know. Oh, one stroke is enough to affirm a soul, evoke a creative idea, one new stroke is enough to be worth a long trip. Say more, he urged. Report everything. The boy suddenly returned to his cheerful voice. 5 minutes to 10. Only 20 minutes left. Uncle and aunt went into the house. The tea has already steeped. The short time left urged even the old artist himself. He immediately followed the young man into the house, looked around before sitting down on the chair. A 3-room house, clean, with tables and chairs, books, charts, statistics, and walkie-talkie. The young man's personal life is reduced to a corner of the world with a child's bed, a desk, and a bookshelf. The artist was still squinting his eyes trying to read the names of the books on the shelf when the girl stepped forward, seemingly doing it for her father. She did not return to the middle table and sat down right in front of the child's desk, flipped through the cover of a book and then left it open as before. The young man poured tea for the old man, turned around to look for the girl, saw that she was reading, immediately brought the small cup and quietly placed it in front of her. The painter sipped a cup of hot tea that he had not seen again for 3 days. Without hiding his excitement, he poured himself another cup and said, "Here's the deal. The story below, come back here in 10 days, I will tell you. I'll be back, honorably. I also want to know what the silence at 1 o'clock in the morning is like. Now there are 3 of us here, tell your story. Why do people say you are the loneliest person in the world? That he craves people so much?" The young man burst out laughing. "Those words are all from the driver." "No, that's not right. Alone, my friend on the 3,142-meter Fansaipan Peak station is more alone than me. Being a meteorologist, staying at high voltage is ideal." He lowered his voice, half confiding, half reciting something he had clearly thought about a lot. "Before I started working, on nights when the sky was pitch black, I looked closely and saw a distant star. I immediately thought that star was alone. Now that I'm doing this job, I don't think like that anymore. Besides, when we work, we are a couple, so how can we be called alone? What's more, my work is closely tied to the work of many brothers and comrades down there. My job is so arduous, if I take it away, I will be sad to death. As for people, who doesn't crave it? What was I born into? Where was I born? Who do I work for?" Well, that's what I told myself. I drove the car and when I got back to Lai Chau, I stopped here for a while. If it's not pop time, I'll run down to play, it's become a tradition. I suddenly wondered, what exactly is this thing about missing the car and that person? If it's nostalgia for urban prosperity, it's mediocre. I stay at the station every month. The driver stopped many times, honked the horn, and no matter what, I stubbornly refused to get off. So one day, the driver had to personally go to my station. I said, "Yes, you don't want people either?" He turned to the girl who was reading a book with one eye and listening with the other, her legs swaying gently, and said, "And you see, I always have someone to talk to. That means there is a book. Each person writes differently." "Where are you from?" the artist asked. "My hometown is in Lao Cai. Last year, I thought I could go far away, but it turns out I didn't. I have a great dad. Father and son together wrote an application to join the army and go to the front. Result: my father beat me 1-0. On the occasion of Tet, a group of plane pilots visited my office in SaPa. There are no children there. The uncle sent one up here again. He said, 'Thanks to your contribution in discovering a dry cloud, that day, that month, our Air Force was able to shoot down so many American jets on Hamrong Bridge.' For me, it was so sudden and unexpected. The pilot mentioned my dad, hugged me and shook me. That's a tie. It's not a draw yet, bro. But from that day on I lived happily. Hey, did you draw me? No, don't draw me. Let me introduce to you other people who are more worthy of drawing." Yes, the old artist was talking, his hand unconsciously scribbling in the notebook resting on his knee. More than many others, he knew very clearly the helplessness of art and painting in the great journey of life. He felt that his pen was powerless on every little step of his journey, but it was like another heart of his, or the old heart that had been enhanced, so he longed for it, that he loved life more. However, for the artist himself, drawing is always a difficult, and arduous task. Making a portrait, sketching like you do here, or then painting in oil, how can you bring out that type of person? Let viewers understand him, without having to understand him as a distant star? And how to put the artist's own heart in the middle of that painting? Alas, encountering a person like him is a rare opportunity for composition, but completing the composition is still a long way. Even so, he accepted the challenge. To avoid being rude, the son still sat still while he painted, but thinking he was not worthy of that challenge, he still said, "No, don't bother drawing me. I introduce to you the engineer in the vegetable garden in SaPa." Day after day he sat quietly in the kohlrabi garden, watching how bees got pollen and pollinated the kohlrabi flowers. Then, in order to follow his wishes, he himself held a stick. Every day at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, when the flowers spread their wings, he walked each kohlrabi tree to work instead of bees. Tens of thousands of trees like that. So that the kohlrabi roots in the entire north of our country can be eaten larger and more delicious than before. The engineer makes me see how beautiful life is. Go back to SaPa and paint him, uncle. Or maybe, you do scientific research at my office down there. It can be said that he was in a ready position all day waiting for lightning. In the middle of the night, the wind and rain were bitterly cold. Whenever I heard lightning, my comrades were startled and ran out. That's 11 years. 11 years without a day away from the office. Don't go anywhere to find a wife. Comrades are afraid that if lightning strikes, they will be absent. Comrades are making a separate lightning map for our country. Having that map is very valuable. Things that are shallowly sunk and things that are deep in the ground can all be known and are very valuable. Comrades' foreheads keep getting bald. But the lightning map is almost done. In the silence of SaPa, under the old mansions of SaPa that only hears the name, people think about resting. There are people who work and worry like that for the country. Fortunately, with a few strokes, the artist finished recording the young man's face for the first time. That boy is really cute, but it makes him so tired. With things that make people think about you. And about the things he thought about in the solitude that towered 2,600 meters above the sea surface, billowing out when he met someone. Correct thoughts always have echoes, evoking many other thoughts in other people's minds, which are available but not clear or correct. For example, the concept of the land of SaPa that he decided to only come to rest in the final stages of his life, which he loves but still avoids. These concerns made the artist unable to comment on the daughter sitting in front of him. The things she heard, combined with what she discovered on the 2 pages of the boy's half-read good book, shocked her. Did the light in the book shine, making her understand more about the young man's beautiful and courageous life alone, about the world of people like him that he told about, and about the path she was on? Did the feeling of shock that she should have known when she fell in love, but now she knows, help her better evaluate the bland love she left, and feel more secure about her decision? An indescribable impression of gratitude arose in the girl's heart. It's not just because the huge bouquet of flowers will accompany her on her first trip to birth. But for another bouquet of flowers, a bouquet of random excitement and dreams, he gave her. And because of something else that she hadn't had time to think about yet. She struggled to find it in her bag. The artist is still coming back, but she, in the vast northwest heaven and earth, in the vast life in general, in a little while, she will probably go away, disappear. Is there anything to give him in return, like he said, celebrating this meeting? What little thing can turn into a little bit of gentleness, a little bit of courage in his life? A book? A small decoration, perhaps? No, there is nothing like that in her bag right now. Oh my God, there's only 5 minutes left. It was the startled young man who spoke loudly, his voice laughing but full of regret. He ran to the back of the house, then returned immediately, holding a basket in his hand. The artist clicked his tongue and stood up. The girl also stood up, put the chair back, and leisurely walked to the old man. Umbrella. You also forgot the towel here. The young man was exclaimed. To keep the girl from returning to the table, he took the balled-up handkerchief from the middle of the book and returned it to the girl. The engineer's face turned red, she took the towel back and quickly turned away. Hello. At the doorstep, suddenly the old artist turned around, grabbed the young man's hand and shook it vigorously. I will definitely come back. Can I stay with you for a few days? It's her turn to say goodbye. She held out her hand for him to hold, carefully, clearly, like people giving each other something other than a handshake. She looked straight into his eyes. Girls who are about to leave me, knowing they will never see me again, often look at me like that. Hello. The first time, it was the young man who turned away. He pressed the lane into the old man's hand and said quickly, This is for lunch for me, my aunt and the driver. I have so many eggs, I can't eat them. I can't see you and aunt off to the car, because it's almost time for the coding. Hello uncle, hello auntie. I will come back. The two men followed the steps down the hill, reached the street level and looked up, but could no longer see the boy standing there. He went inside. He carried a basket of eggs, she carried a large bouquet of flowers. At that time, the sun had silvered the entire pass, burning the forest like a large torch. The sunlight made the bouquet of flowers even more brilliant and made the girl feel radiant. The two of them walked slowly towards the parked car, remaining silent for a long time. Suddenly the old man looked at the clock and said to himself, Young people nowadays are so strange. You guys are like butterflies. But it's already 11 o'clock, when is it time to op? Why didn't he walk me to the car? The girl glanced at the old man very quickly, naturally nervous, but remained silent. At the end of the work, please support me with the like button and subscribe to the channel to listen to more works.